It's Saturday, March 7th, 2026, and you're listening to Blue Lightning Daily. I'm Hunter, and yes, today's episode was assembled by a small orchestra of AIs that absolutely believe Final.use this V12 is a valid naming convention.
I'm Riley, and I just want to say, if your AI ever renames your file to final.use this v12 is a valid naming convention. I'm Riley, and I just want to say, if your AI ever renames your file to final.use this v12, this is the planlessness. Endless plan the math.
It's not
Like in a creative ops way. Because if you've ever tried to resize one video into vertical, square, and wide, and keep it looking good across cuts, that's not creative, that's punishment.
Exactly. And Adobe's not pitching AI made an ad. They're pitching AI helped your team ship 5,000 on-brand variations without collapsing into Slack threads and duplicate PSDs.
Okay, so let's translate that for creators. This isn't about making better ideas. This is about throughput. Like industrial scale, same idea, different market, different format, different legal line, different CTA, different platform.
Yeah. Programmatic creative. Instead of opening a file, tweaking, exporting, and repeating until you forget your own name, you're sending a job and getting outputs. Repeatable, trackable, batchable.
Hunter, I need you to answer this like you're talking to a scrappy creator, not a Fortune 500 creative ops boss. Why should I care?
Because the ripple hits you even if you're solo. If you do brand work, this is the kind of system that decides whether your concept ships fast or gets buried under, can we get one more version but for Argentina, and also it needs to be 916.
And if you're the creator running your own stuff, you're basically learning the same muscle. Templates, reusable systems, and consistency rules. Adobe just wants that wired into pipelines.
Let's talk about the two big oh wow bits. Translate plus lip sync for video localization, and the Reframe API for aspect ratios.
The translate and lip sync thing is a whole moment. Because dubbing is expensive, approvals are slow, and half the time you end up with that vibe, where it looks like the video is possessed.
Right. Adobe's angle seems to be good enough to test and good enough to publish for a lot of content. Not replacing high-stakes localization for like a Super Bowl-level campaign, but for creator-led brands, training content, performance ads, huge.
And performance marketers are going to go feral. Because the dream is, find one winning ad, then spin it into a dozen markets with localized voice and a mouth that mostly matches. That's money.
Mostly matches is doing a lot of work there.
Hey, listen, if it's either mostly matches or we never ship it internationally, I know what the growth goblins pick.
Then there's Reframe. This is the least glamorous but most life-changing. One edit becomes vertical, square, wide, without manual keyframing every cut.
Wait, hold up. Do we trust it, though? Because I've seen auto-reframe tools that are like, yes, the product is important, but what if we center on the speaker's elbow?
That's the pragmatic take. You still need QA. But the point is, it can get you 80% of the way there at scale, and you spend your human time on edge cases instead of doing the same crop dance for the 50th time.
Okay, so here's my spicy question. If Adobe turns make 5,000 variants into an API call, what's the new creative flex? Taste, speed, or writing a terrifyingly detailed prompt spec?
Taste plus systems thinking. Like taste is still king, but the flex becomes, can you define brand rules, templates, and guardrails so the machine can produce output that still feels intentional?
So the new creative director is part stylist, part ops, part librarian.
Exactly. And the bottleneck moves. People think the bottleneck is designers. Half the time it's approvals, legal, and who has the correct logo.
Or the one person with trauma from final.use this v12 who refuses to let go of manual control.
That person is me, Riley.
I know, you can't hide your pain. Your pupils are literally shaped like PSD icons.
The real question is, who becomes the bottleneck now? Because if creative output scales, review has to scale too.
And that's where brand safety and mediocrity come in. Because automation can absolutely industrialize fine. Like, congrats, you made 5,000 ads that are perfectly on brand and perfectly ignorable.
That's such a good point. The line between automation and mediocrity is auditing. You need a system for measuring quality at scale, not just producing at scale.
And you need humans in the loop who aren't just checking boxes. Like, you need someone who can say, this technically follows the brand kit, but it feels dead inside.
Which is why I think the best workflow is humans set the concept, build a template system, define do's and don'ts, then let the pipeline generate variants. Humans come back for sampling, exceptions, and tuning.
Sampling is the key word. You're not reviewing every asset, you're reviewing patterns. Like, show me outputs across regions and platforms, and you look for where it starts getting weird.
Also, integration is the work. APIs are only magical if you connect them to your DAM, your approvals, your publishing flow. This is not plug and play for most teams.
And for creators, the parallel is you can't just buy an AI tool and hope it becomes a content business. You still need the system, the checklist, the repeatable pipeline. Otherwise, it's just chaos with better fonts.
Speaking of the ecosystem, this week has been very scale and automation coded. We've been talking about GPT 5.4 with that massive context window and stronger computer using agent behavior.
Which, by the way, feels related. Because if you're building a content machine, you want the model to remember your brand rules, your tone, your product details, your campaign history, without it turning into a goldfish every chat.
And OpenAI pushing those instant and codex variants plus Google's Gemini Flash Lite vibe, everybody's basically racing to be the cheap, fast, reliable engine for high-volume content ops.
It's like the creator economy met the factory line. And now everyone's like, okay, but what if the factory line is aesthetic?
So, how should orgs measure success with Firefly Services? Is it fewer Slack threads, faster localization, higher conversion, or fewer humans crying over aspect ratios?
Honestly, the first win is fewer humans crying over aspect ratios. That's the leading indicator. Then you look at cycle time, like how long from concept to in-market assets, and then performance metrics if you're running ads.
I'd add consistency. If your brand feels coherent across markets and formats, that's a big deal. But it only works if your inputs are clean.
Right, you can't feed it junk and expect Michelin. You need locked templates, real brand kits, and rules that aren't just make it pop.
Riley, what's your meme caption for this update?
When you ask for one quick tweak and Adobe turns it into infrastructure. Or, POV, you requested a resize and now it's an API endpoint.
Mine is just the screenshot of a folder named finalfinal.use this v12 dissolving into dust.
Wait, last thing. For creators listening, if you don't have an engineering team, what's the move?
The move is to steal the mindset. Build templates, standardize your formats, document your brand rules, use automation where you can, even if it's not Adobe APIs. When you do eventually touch tools that can batch output, you'll be ready.
And if you are on a team, make friends with whoever owns your workflow. Because the winners aren't just best prompt, it's best pipeline.
All right, that's the episode. Thanks for hanging with us on Blue Lightning Daily, the show that is fully AI produced and occasionally gets possessed by the spirit of enterprise file naming.
Subscribe if you like your AI news useful and a little unhinged, and go check out bluelightningtv.com for more updates.
Catch you next time, unless the Reframe API crops us out of our own outro.
Honestly, it would center on your elbow.